your new friend Ty.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast. It's the podcast where you find new friends and new music. This week I am joined by a Missouri native. He just released an EP in the middle of 2021, and now he's here to tell us all about his journey and what comes next. Let's welcome to the show, Jerod Yount. Jerod, buddy, how the heck are you?
Dude, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, brother. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk and to get to know you a little bit, and we'll tee off with Jerod next.
It's time to tee off with Ty and today's guest, Jerod Yount. Here comes the first four.
And here we go. Question number one, Jerod. If you couldn't be in the entertainment industry, what job would you have?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I'd say probably farming with my family. My family has a pretty big for us. You know, it's big for the area farm. If I could make a pretty good living doing that, that would be something that I think would be really fun to do. Obviously, there's many mouths to feed between the family, but, you know, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I love to, you know, getting out there and spending time with my grandpa and my dad and getting to be in one field and seeing, you know, all three generations together is something pretty neat. I think that'd be probably something that I would try to take over.
That is a solid answer. It seems like you're cut out for it. I mean, it's already in the family.
Yeah, well, I guess it's been instilled in me from a young age. So
there you go. Okay, so if I give you control of the music at a party, what's the first song that you're going to play to get everybody up and moving, get them out on the dance floor?
Oh, man, to get them up and moving? See, that's not usually my go-to music at a party, but I guess
or singing along.
I would throw it. Yeah, I would have to, if I was going to get everybody up and moving on the dance floor and I wanted everybody to have a good time, I would have to throw it back to when I was in high school, and what I enjoyed back in the day was Down by Jay Sean and Lil Wayne.
Oh,
that
okay.
was
Okay.
my go-to get it hyped up song back in the day.
That's solid. That's a good answer. Okay, I'm excited for this question. What character from a TV show, movie, book, any fictional character you could think of would you bring to life and hang out with for a day?
Oh, probably Percy Jackson from The Lightning Thief. I loved those books when I was younger, and I mean, I'm 27 and I still read them every once in a while, and I'm excited for the show to finally come out on Disney Plus. So I probably would hang out with Percy Jackson because he just seems like he lives a pretty cool life.
Wait, has that show come out yet? I've seen the previews for it. Or I guess
I haven't
promotion.
Yeah, all I've heard is that they are working on it and they're actually going to do it justice this time because they're letting the author, Rick Riordan, however you pronounce his last name, they're actually letting him have a whole bunch of input on the TV show, and they're taking a lot of his direction. So I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
That sounds like it's always good when you've got the original creator kind of involved, especially in something like that.
Oh, and that's what made the Harry Potter movies so good, was that they took a lot of the inspiration and they let J.K. Rowling have a lot of input on it.
Are you a big Harry Potter fan?
Oh, big Harry Potter fan.
We just rewatched it with my 8-year-old a couple of weeks ago, and we watched all 8 movies in 14 days. It was pretty nuts, but he's now reading the first Harry Potter, and he's like, it's so much different than the movie. I'm like, yeah,
yes. Yeah, that was my COVID quarantine. That was on my COVID quarantine bucket list, was to watch all the Harry Potter films again when I was on quarantine, and I got it knocked out, but it was a lot to do in 10 days.
Did you get a chance to watch that reunion special?
I did. So I watched that pretty well when it came out. I was on quarantine, literally spent my New Year's Day and New Year's Eve in my house alone because I had COVID. So that's how I watched it right when it came out. It was awesome.
Okay, here we go, Jerod. Question number 4 of the first 4. If you could have an unlimited supply of anything, whiskey, tacos, guitar strings, scotch tape, whatever it is, other than money, what would it be?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you a good deep answer, and then I'm going to give you a good, so you can't have unlimited money, but I think unlimited time would be really cool.
Oh, that's a
not because I want to live forever. That sounds awful, But I think if you think about it, if you had unlimited time, like you would never have to stress about what you need to get done. And you'd have so many things you could accomplish in the time that you had. Like, your normal lifespan's what, like 75 years, I think is the average lifespan. If you had an just unsurmountable amount of time and an infinite amount of time, you could really tackle everything that needs to be done and really do everything that you wanted to do in your life. Yeah, and probably turn that into infinite money at some point. You know what I mean?
Right? Like I can't tell you how many days I'm like, God, I wish that I had 4 more hours today. Time is maybe the best answer we've got.
Hey, I'm glad. I'll take that all day.
Well done. Jarod, man, that was the first 4. Thanks for playing along. But now let's turn the attention more to you. Pull back the curtain a little bit. Give us a story of growing up in Perryville, Missouri, and tell us how you got into music.
Oh, so I actually was born and I spent the first 7 years of my life in a little bitty town called Sedgwickville, Missouri. Okay. And then when my parents split, I moved to Perryville and I spent the rest of my, young adult and adult life in Perryville. It's where really the town that kind of raised me and where I made a lot of my really good, core friends from when I was younger, friends that I still talk to and hang out with on a weekly basis. Some of them I talk to on a daily basis. It was definitely a culture shock because I went from a town of 190 people to a town of 9,000 or 8,000. So it was a big culture shock for me jumping up there.
I bet.
But yeah, it was really cool because I got to experience a lot of different things and I got to know a lot of cool people. And as far as music goes, I did some music, I was in band in middle school and in high school and a little bit in college. But I really didn't start actually trying to sing until I was probably, I think I played my first show. I was in a Blink-182 cover band.
Solid.
Yeah. I mean, we covered a lot of other stuff, but mainly it was Blink-182 and pop punk music. And we played our first acoustic show a week before I turned 21. And I was in that band for a solid year, 2 years, 2.5 years. And, we split up and I was like, man, I really don't think I ever want to do music. I want to write stuff, but I don't ever want to go play again. I just kind of wanted. So when I was 23, 24, I learned how to play guitar. I downloaded an app on my phone and taught myself how to play guitar and started writing my first songs by myself. And actually the first song I ever wrote, I released on the EP. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. So looking back kind of where you came from, obviously we know that your family, farmers. Was there any musical influence in your family at all? Or are you kind of the first one to take this path?
My dad was a really good trumpet player in high school. And he had some family friends that were in one of his best friends growing up was actually in a Southern gospel band called the Southern Brothers. And so I'd been around them and seen them, play and practice and stuff like that. So I think, they kind of had some influence on me. My dad wrote a lot of poems and that's kind of what started me in writing. And then that was really the main musical influence in my life. There really isn't anybody that's done a whole lot of stuff with music. I'm kind of the only one that is attempted to make a living at it. And I wouldn't say that I'm doing a great job, but I'm giving it my best.
You got to start somewhere. And from what I've heard that you've got released, I think there's a bright future there. But was there a moment that you knew music is what I want to do? Obviously you started learning guitar at 23, 24, you've been writing songs before that, but was there kind of a light bulb moment that you're like, okay, this is the dream I'm going to chase? Or did it just kind of happen organically?
It was definitely, so there was definitely a moment that I realized I couldn't live without being involved in music and in one way or another, whether it was doing it for a living or just honestly just singing myself and writing my own stuff. I went through a pretty tough time and had a pretty good battle with depression and anxiety and stuff. And the only way that I learned how to cope healthily with that was by writing music and by writing my thoughts down in songs and doing stuff like that. So that's kind of the moment I knew I have to have something to do with this for the rest of my life. But I think when I realized I wanted to actually, do music for a living, and it was the dream I wanted to chase, was I released my first song called Where the Night Leads. And, all my friends loved it and everything like that. And that was fantastic. But I was playing a show, and I don't remember where the show was, but it was pretty early on. It was probably like 5 or 6 months after that song was released. And I think I was playing somewhere in St. Louis. And I played that song acoustically, and somebody from the crowd come up to me on a break and goes, "Man, I didn't know anybody else knew that song. I love that song." I'm like, "Which one are you talking about, man?" He goes, "Where the Night Leads." And I was like, "That's my song." He goes, "No way, dude." I was like, "Yeah, that's like, I wrote that song. That's me that sings it." And it was just like that moment. I was like, that was the coolest musical moment up to that point in my life. And I was like, this is what I want to do 100%.
That is really cool, actually, to have somebody come up to you, didn't even realize that it was yours, and have that kind of a reaction. You talked about, you're playing in St. Louis, but you also spend some time down in Nashville on occasion, playing in writers' rounds or that sort of thing. What was your first trip to Nashville like as an artist?
It was really cool. It was surreal. So it was my first trip to Nashville in general. I'd driven through Nashville to go to like Florida and things like that, but I'd never actually been to Nashville until I went to play my first writers round. And I had a friend there. Her name is Lindsay, and she showed me around Nashville, and she was great. And I went to the Grand Ole Opry and got to tour the Grand Ole Opry. And it was really funny because I get asked a lot. I get told a lot that I resemble Luke Combs very closely.
I can
we look. So I'm walking to the Grand Ole Opry, and I've got my guitar in my hand because it's July, and I'm like, I don't want to leave my guitar in my truck.
Oh yeah.
So I'm walking in, and these people stop me. They're like, "Oh my God, is it Luke Combs? Are you Luke Combs?" I was like, "No." And the dad goes, "That's something Luke Combs would say." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure Luke Combs would say that he was Luke Combs and probably stop and take a picture with you." But
right.
it was really cool to go sit in a room and play for people just next to other insanely talented songwriters and artists, and meet new people chasing the same, even if they're chasing it in different ways and they're chasing it in different genres, chasing the same dream as you and having the same goals. And I really thought it was going to be a competitive feeling, or it was going to be, kind of a, who's this guy sitting next to me? But it was really cool to see how supportive everyone was, and how immediately they were ready to help with any advice that they had, or write music with you or anything. And it was I thought it was going to be this super competitive world. And it really just felt like everybody that's chasing the dream is one big family, and we all want, and everybody wants everybody else to succeed, and you want to see that for everyone. So that was a really cool thing for me to experience.
Well, and I want to jump back a little bit because you mentioned taking the tour of the Grand Ole Opry. I went to Nashville for the first time this last summer and got to take that tour. And as somebody that's kind of on the fringes of the country music industry, it was incredibly powerful to walk through that building, to watch the presentation by Garth and Trisha right off the bat. What was that like, walking through that as an artist, separate than, walking through as just a normal fan, I guess?
It was, I don't know what the best word to describe it would be. It felt, it put a drive in me, right? So I would say that I'd always been I want to be successful. Yeah, I want to play the Grand Ole Opry, but you can say that never being there. And then when you actually go there and you have this connection, with every other person that's played there, even if you're not there to play, you feel this sort of connection to this place. Definitely. And, it feels like you're drawn there. And Nashville is very similar. Nashville is the same way, but with the Grand Ole Opry, you go see the rooms and you're like, I could be there one day. I will be there one day. You see the mailboxes that they have where, you send mail to Luke Combs or Trisha Yearwood or Garth Brooks or whoever, and they get it. And you're like, I will have one of those someday. And you go on stage and you just see the circle. Right. And you're like, that's the dream. There's not one piece of material object, right, in the world that signifies the dream of being a country musician and a country singer songwriter than the circle in the Grand Ole Opry. That's the ultimate thing that I can say, that feeling, that thing right there is what signifies that you've made it. and I will not stop until I get there. That's what I felt when I was in the Grand Ole Opry.
And I can only imagine what that was like for you, because I went, I saw all of it, and then I came home and the first thing I did was pick up my guitar. I haven't written a song since high school, and I've never put out anything for the public. But I was like, maybe it'd be pretty cool to play that. And then I put down my guitar and I was like, yeah, I still have no talent. It's been 15 years. It's never coming at this point.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. It's definitely one that I'll never forget, and one that really put a passion and a drive. That whole first trip to Nashville for me was kind of a game changer as far as how serious I started taking this music thing. Not that I didn't take it seriously before, but that whole trip and then my trips after that. But that first one in particular kind of was a real game changer for me. It was like, okay, this is a real thing, that if I want to do this, like, I think that I can do this, but I've got to really work my butt off and just put in the work and grind it out, because if this is where I want to be, the only thing stopping me at this point is me, and I've got to get out of my own way and really put in the work.
Definitely. That is a great way to look at it. And I want to ask you a question. We got hooked up by a mutual friend, George, from the Before Nashville podcast. Everybody should go check that one out. B4 Nashville podcast. I got a chance to meet George and hang out with him last year at Freedom Jam. But how did you and George get connected?
George actually, it's funny to hear him say, because it's crazy, because I live in Cape Girardeau now and he lives in Cape, and we live probably 2 miles away from each other, right? Maybe 2 miles. And so I had never heard of George and he had never heard of me. I'd heard him talk on the radio, but I didn't put two and two together. And he actually emailed me and was like, hey man, I found you on Breedlove's website, because I'm sponsored by Breedlove Guitars. He goes, I found you on Breedlove's website. I noticed you were from Perryville. Would you have any interest in doing my podcast? And I was like, I've never had anyone in my life ask me to do any form of interview. So yes, I would love to. That sounds really cool. So we did the podcast, and then we talked for like an hour or 2 hours afterwards, and we became good friends and really, built a strong connection. He came out to a couple of shows, and now he's my manager. So it's just been a wild ride for George and I in our relationship.
Hey, if there's anybody that you can go on a wild ride with, it is that man.
Oh, it is 100%.
But you're still out there as an independent artist. What is it for you that you find, I guess, maybe the biggest struggle? If there's another independent artist out there listening, what is it that you can, I guess, some advice that you can give them to keep on going, because you're kind of facing the same struggles that they are?
I would say that, first off, find a good support system in music. Like, you have your family, back home, you have your friends that are great, but realistically, they're going to tell you that, realistically, they don't probably know what's, the ins and outs of the music industry. They don't know, they've never experienced it. They just want to support you. They don't really know like the difference between, a song that still needs to be edited, like you still need to do work to before you put it out, or a song that's, like, hey, that right there is it. And what I've found is the more people that I've come into contact and the more friends that I've made that are doing the music thing like I am, I have a better support system as far as the music side of things. I can go to my friends and say, hey, tell me your honest opinion of this song, right? And I don't get offended if they don't like it, because I would tell them the same thing if I felt that way, where if I send it to one of my friends or my mom, they're going to love it because I did it. And so you really get that good constructive criticism. And along with that, they've went through things. They've had different journeys to get to the point that they're at. And, you can share all the journey, your advice and things that you learned along the way with each other, and really, it helps you push to that next thing. And instead of having the knowledge of one person, you have the knowledge of, as many people as you become friends with. And the more connections you make, the more songs you can write, the more places you can go, things you can see, the more opportunities you have in the most positive way. Like, I wrote 3 songs with a buddy today that I met in Nashville. His name's Liam Coleman. y'all don't check him out, you definitely need to. He's amazing. And we wrote 3 of my favorite songs I've ever written today. And had I never went to Nashville and never talked to him and become friends with him, I wouldn't be able to text him and be like, hey, dude, what do you think about this song? You like it? Let's set up a write. You don't like it? Tell me why you don't. Like the things about it you don't like. And connections like that are just really cool to have. So that's kind of probably the advice that I would give.
Well, I think that's a good time to kind of pivot and talk about your songwriting, because I saw that on Instagram. You were posting about how you wrote songs and then you ended up writing a third after you thought that you had 2 great ones. But how much how much do you go about co-writing versus writing by yourself? I mean, with Zoom, it kind of makes it so much easier. You don't have to actually travel to Nashville to sit in a room with these guys. But are you more of a co-writer, or do you write by yourself?
So I have written a lot more songs by myself. Most of the stuff that I've released has been all written by me. I have a buddy named Eric Ziegler. We wrote Long Gone together, and he wrote most of All American Girl, and I kind of came in at the end and we finished co-writing All American Girl. But other than that, everything that I've released, I've written by myself. But I had never been able to co-write with people, just because being from a small town, not going and meeting new people and things like that, I hadn't known anybody that also wrote music. And now thankfully there's a lot more people around my town and around my home that are doing it to co-write with. But I never knew that was a thing until I went to Nashville and somebody asked me to co-write a song together. And I was like, what's a co-write? And I'm still very new to it. But the more that I start co-writing, I actually do enjoy co-writing, probably more than writing by myself. But there's still songs that, like, I'll start a song and I'm like, I could co-write this and get it done. But I think that this is one that I need to do on my own. So Unbreakable is a good example of that. I started writing that song and I was like, well, this is one that I need to do for me. Like, it's a very personal song to me, and I want to finish this one on my own. I want to be proud of all the work that I put into it. But for the most part, it's really nice because you get other opinions on the songs, you get other input. You can take a song and you can have 3 words of a song, and then the next thing you know, you've got an entire song that you have constructed in a different direction than you ever thought that it would go, and you love it. And you got to share that with somebody else. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Well, and with the with co-writing, when you sit down to write by yourself, is it kind of the same process that you do when you go to co-write? I mean, do you start with melody or lyrics or a title by yourself, and does that change when it's a co-write?
So I have a really unorthodox writing style. Most of, like, I am very big in, like, for me, I have to have a lot of inspiration to be able to write a song. I haven't trained myself to write without inspiration. But most of the time when I go to write a song by myself, I'll just be like, I'll see a phrase, or I'll think of a phrase. It could be like in this conversation we're having right now, there could be a phrase said by either one of us and I just be like, man, I like that. And then I'll start stringing the song together. And when I write it, I kind of hear everything in my head as I'm going. So I hear the drums, I hear the guitar, I hear the bass, I hear all the instrumentations. And then I also can, like, form a melody to all the stuff that goes on in my head, and I write it like that. But when I co-write, typically I'll have somebody else will have a line or a verse or a chorus or whatever, or we'll go, get into a Zoom meeting. You'll play what you've got and you're like, okay, so what direction do you want this song to go? Like, and then I try to attach myself to the direction that they want to take that song, and then try to, build the song from there. So 2 totally different processes, but they both work equally as well for me. Just that if I don't have someone to bounce the ideas off of, I have to kind of, like, just find the inspiration and get as much done as possible while the inspiration is there, and then wait for that song until the inspiration strikes again.
Well, let's talk about a song that you just mentioned that you wrote by yourself. It's called Unbreakable. It's your latest single. And just listening to the song, I could tell that this was a personal song, and it feels like there's a personal story behind it. Give us where the inspiration for this one came from, and tell us what the writing process was like.
So this song is it's the most raw, emotional song I've ever written in my life for me. It actually, so I had a really good friend who tragically took his own life. And very shortly after that, I was kind of dating this girl. It wasn't anything serious, but we went through, we went our separate ways. It was mutual. It was fine. But it gave me an avenue, right, to write a song and get everything out about my friend that had passed away, and to really just get all of that emotion out and everything that I was feeling. It gave me a good avenue to write a relatable song for people and also get my feelings out. So it sounds like a breakup song, and in ways there's definitely something to do with a breakup. But for the most part, like a lot of the words in there, like my favorite line of the song is you weren't made for breaking hearts, but you went broke mine anyway. And that's about my friend. Like, it breaks your heart when you lose somebody, and especially when someone makes that decision on their own. It's just a really hard thing to cope with, and it's the ultimate loss, right? Because if you break up with somebody, you can see them 2 years down the road, or social media. But when someone's gone forever, they're gone. It's the ultimate loss, and that's where that song came from. And honestly, I sat down and started playing guitar. I was practicing Fast Car by Tracy Chapman, and I was just messing around with different chords in that same key and everything. And I started finger picking a little bit, and I was like, man, I really like this melody. And then it just hit me. And start to finish, I think I wrote that song in 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was just an emotional, everything was out, and then I felt worlds better after it was done.
I can imagine why. Well, let's give everybody a chance to listen to this one. It's called Unbreakable by today's guest, Jerod Yount.
Try to find the words to say since you went and walked away. You weren't made for breaking hearts, but you went and broke mine anyway. Sometimes things don't work out the way they should. Sometimes things that seem unbreakable break into. I remember the first days, I remember the worst days. What I'd give to have them back now. Remember the times when we went driving, killing time like we never run out of it. Sometimes things don't work out the way they should. Sometimes life gets in the way of all the good. Sometimes things don't work out the way we plan. Sometimes things that seem unbreakable break into, like me and you. We went driving nowhere on a map with a circle around it, like all our plans, like that little white house with a porch around it, raising our kids with a good Lord planned it. Like me and you, like me and you. Sometimes Sometimes things don't work out the way they should. Sometimes things that seem unbreakable break into.
And that one was called Unbreakable, new music from today's guest, Jerod Yount. Jerod, what was the decision process like for you to put out that EP last year? Did the idea to release a project like that just kind of come about? Or did you have a collection of songs that you wanted to release and decided to release them as a collection?
So I kind of thought about, I was like, man, I really need to release another song, because up to the point that I released this EP, my only release, I had one single, and it had been released in 2019, I think in like May or April of 2019. So I hadn't released anything for a very long time. And I was like, it did a lot better than I thought it was going to do. It did really well. It's still my best streamed, my most streamed song, et cetera, et cetera. But I had been writing after that, and I'd had a few songs that I was like, I really think that these would be good together. I think it shows my range as an artist. I think it shows my range as a person. And then, like All American Girl wasn't originally slated to be on the EP until I, was talking to my friend Eric, and we were writing Long Gone, and he goes, dude, I really think that you should put All American Girl on this. And he goes, I think it would be a nice tempo change on the song and on the EP. And I think it shows off your voice, and it really is a good song for you. And so we threw that on there, and I knew I wanted the Whiskey on there. That was one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. I knew I wanted Long Gone on there. And, so there I'm sitting with 4 songs, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to release an acoustic version of Long Gone as well. I'll throw that on there. But I feel like having a 5-song EP and 2 of them are the same song, I was like, I don't really know. And I had no idea what song I was going to put on after that. And then my producer was like, well, man, you got to put one more song on here. And I kind of went through a list of like 5 or 6 songs that I was like, this one, maybe, this one, maybe, this one. And he goes, no, I don't like that. And he goes, what? He goes, I get that a lot of this stuff talks about your experiences and your life and everything. He goes, but there's really not a song on here that talks about you and like that's really you. And I was like, well, I wrote this. This is the first song I ever wrote. I was like, I don't think it's that great. And I was like, it's essentially just a love letter to my grandfather. And it talks about, my life growing up on the farm and hanging out with him. And he goes, that's the song you need to put on there. And so Granddaddy's Farm was thrown on there as well. And I'm really happy with how the EP turned out, honestly.
Well, I mean, I've listened to it, I don't know, maybe 10 times in the last week, one to get ready for this interview, but also just because it really does kind of tell a story with each song. And it feels like you really get to know who you are. And one of those songs that really jumped out at me was, you mentioned it, it's called Long Gone. Give us a story about how this song came about.
So this song was, this is probably it was actually the most recent song that I had written pre-release, like to release this EP. And it was kind of, for me, the driving factor to release an EP was honestly this song. I love it. I think it's a great song. I mean, obviously I wrote it. So, and my friend Eric hopped along and we co-wrote it, but so obviously I really like it, but I do think it's a good song. And I was going through a breakup and just 1,000 different breakups. And, like you go through in life, everybody goes through multiple heartbreaks and multiple heartaches and multiple things that don't work out. So it's not really about any specific breakup, but, I also had a buddy that had told me, he's like, man, I just found out my girlfriend was cheating on me. And I was like, man, that sucks. And I go, how do you feel about that? He goes, well, I did my fair share of bad things in the relationship as well. And I made a lot of mistakes as well. And that kind of resonated with me. Like, this is, things happen, like in the song, it says, this old town's been talking because they've all seen you walking around with some new guy whose name ain't mine. And they didn't see that coming. Very private breakup. The two of you break up, whether it's a cheating incident or they start dating somebody new. And it's really about I'm happy that you moved on. I need to now move on from this in my life. And, it's not, breakups aren't a one-way thing. It's a two-way street. A relationship takes two. So it's not always one person's fault. And I kind of wanted to really show that in that song. And I think I accomplished that.
I think so too. Here, let's let everybody take a listen to it. This one is called Long Gone, off of his newest EP by Jerod Yount.
This old town's been talking, 'cause they've all seen you walking around with some new guy whose name ain't mine. They didn't see that coming. Me, I'm barely breathing, 'cause I can't keep from thinking about how your heart belonged to mine, and now it's some other guy. Tonight I'm gonna give you up and leave our love behind, and maybe I'll finally go to sleep and not dream of you. Go out with the boys and only drink a few, 'cause I don't need to drown the memory of me and you. See you out downtown and I feel like my whole world's gonna end, 'cause I don't feel right without you. But I need to get on with living without you, 'cause you moved on and you left me all alone with the memory of someone who's long gone. Maybe I could have done this right, and I messed it up for the millionth time. I should have heard when you told me all that I could do, and you'd be here right by my side, and I'd be kissing you goodnight. But now I'm alone in a nightmare and wondering who's holding you dear. And I know it's too late to change, but darling, I'd change everything so that I could finally go to sleep and not dream of you. Go out with the boys and only drink a few, 'cause I don't need to drown the memory of me and you. See you out downtown and not feel like my whole world's gonna end, 'cause I don't feel right without you. But I need to get on with living without you, 'cause you moved on and you left me all alone with the memory of someone who's long gone. Tonight I'm gonna give you up and leave our love behind, and maybe I'll finally go to sleep and not dream of you. Go out with the boys and only drink a few, 'cause I don't need to drown the memory of me and you. See you out downtown and I feel like my whole world's gonna end, 'cause I don't feel right without you. But I need to get on with living without you, 'cause you moved on and you left me all alone. Why'd you go and leave me all alone with the memory of someone who's long gone?
And that was Long Gone by Jerod Yount. And when it comes to releasing music, I think outside of the industry, a lot of people think that to record anything, you have to go find a $10,000 an hour studio, but you released your EP last year. What was that recording process like for you?
It was pretty quick. I'm pretty good friends with the guy that does my producing. Worked with him on everything except for the last song that I released, except for Unbreakable. But with the EP and everything, I worked with him and with Where the Night Leads. And so we know each other well, and he knows how to get the best out of me. It is an expensive process to record. And I think that it's kind of funny because, you say like everybody thinks it's 10,000. I think that there are just as many people that think that it's you go type in a couple of things on your computer, grab a microphone and record it, and then it sounds like it does on the radio. I think there are a lot of people that think that, and I've kind of learned that through TikTok.
That's a good point.
And through different things. Like a lot of different people, they're like, you need to release this song. It's like, well, you're talking about a 3-month process to record it, 2-month process, whatever it is, unless, to write every part and then record it, you're talking about a long drawn out process. And then to schedule the release, it's like, realistically, to put out a good single, you probably need to be recording it a year before you want to release it, or 8 months, unless you just have this massive following. Like Luke Combs could probably go record a song today and have a successful release in 2 months or in 3 months. Me, I need to build, like, I have a good fan base and I love my fans. And I'm not saying anything like that they're not the greatest, because they're amazing. But with having a smaller fan base, I have to really work on promoting to get something to be successful, or what I would consider successful for the song. So there's a lot of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, playing it live. A lot of things go into making a song successful. So where the recording process might not be, but a month thing, you might start to finish, have a song done in a month. It takes a lot more time to really successfully promote and launch a song. And then not to mention the thousands of dollars, you pour into recording every time you go do it. Unless you're somebody who has all the equipment at home and has bought that over the years and is really good at the production side, which I am not. I am not a producer. I will never pretend to be a producer. I struggle to deal with GarageBand. to lay down good demos. So, but yeah, there's a long process that goes into it. It is becoming a lot more attainable every day. And every year we take a lot of steps forward. You do see a lot of people recording in their garage now and like, not just like, you've always seen that, but you are seeing a lot of people like have very good quality recordings with a MacBook and a microphone. So every day we are getting closer to that, and hopefully someday it'll be not so astronomically priced to record, unless you know somebody or you build that relationship.
Are you trying to tell me that you can't just rip the audio from a TikTok live and put it on Spotify?
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. I mean, you could realistically take the audio from, but yeah, you're not going to get anything quality. But sometimes the recording process takes no time. So Unbreakable, honestly, we weren't even going in to record that song as a single when I recorded it. I was going in to my buddies we were building backing tracks and click tracks for a show we had coming up, because you want to wear in-ear monitors. It's really nice to have a click track that everybody's listening to keep them on time. And we went to record acoustic versions of songs just so we could have a click track built to them. And we laid that down. I played the guitar part, and then I went and sang, and he goes, dude, we need to release that. And I was like, that was a one take, dude. He goes, yeah, I know. He goes, you just wait. So he did some editing to it and worked his production magic on it. And then that's the song we got. So sometimes you do get one, you do a one take and it's amazing. And other times you're sitting there trying to nail one word 37 times.
Well, so what do you have going on for everybody in 2022, and where can they keep up with you on social media?
So all of my social media is all the same. It's at Jerod Yount Music. It's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And really this year is hopefully a year that I take that next step and put out. I'm going to try to put out some new music this year. Hopefully I've got some really good ideas. Like I said, I just cooked up some really good songs today, and I've got some stuff that's kind of in the vault that I'm really, really excited about. If you follow me on TikTok, you get to hear those before anybody else because I play them on my TikTok live a lot. So plan on doing more TikTok live stuff, trying to grow my social media platform and play some shows and put some new music out for everybody. That's kind of the goal this year.
I love it, man. Hopefully when I'm out there in Missouri this summer, I'll get a chance to meet you. It's been an absolute blast. But before we let you go, we end every podcast the same way, pretty much the same way we started. It's called the Final Four. It can be maybe some of the 4 toughest questions that I ask you the whole time just because they make you think. You ready?
I'm down. I'm ready.
It's time for the Final Four.
Okay, here we go. First question of the Final Four. What's your favorite venue that you've ever played in?
Ooh.
Like I said, these ones are tough. They make you think.
I've got probably Game 6, Honky Tonk Bar in St. Louis. That one, or either that, or I played a writers round in Nashville. It was at the all that new food court thing that they built on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
It's massive, and so where we played, it was directly in front of the Ryman. So you're playing like right in front of the Ryman, and that was probably the coolest place that I played. But Game 6 has been the most fun. And I love my local bars. 21 Taps and Cape is another one. So probably those 3. It's hard for me to pick in between those 3.
Did you say 21 Taps and Cake?
Cape. 21 Taps
Oh,
in
okay.
Cape. Sorry.
In Cape. I was so excited. I was like, beer and cake? I'm 100% in on this place.
Hey, you know what? That might be a business idea. That might be a business venture. We.
There you go. I love it, man. Okay, here we go. Question number 2. And you can cheat if you need to by looking at your phone, but who are your 3 most recently played artists on Spotify?
I don't even need to cheat to say that. Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
Jason Isbell and Zach Bryan will be my 3 most recently listened to artists.
Those are good. You don't get, as popular as Jason Isbell is, I don't get that answer nearly as much as I assumed that I would asking that question.
Oh, he's amazing. And I really think that, so Cover Me Up is my favorite Jason Isbell song, and it really makes me mad when people think it's a Morgan Wallen song. Don't get me wrong, Morgan Wallen did such an amazing cover of it, and he's also been very open about, this is not my song, it's a cover. He's been very adamant about, this is a cover song. Look up Jason Isbell. But it's probably one of my all-time favorite songs, but the more I listen to it, The River and Elephant are probably my 2 favorite Jason Isbell songs.
Oh, those are good songs too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how about this one? When you're out on the road and you pass a restaurant, gas station, store, whatever it is, what's the one place that you have to stop every time you pass
it? How long am I going to be on the road? Am I on a road trip? Road trip? Oh,
like out of the area, maybe driving down to Nashville.
Really, just the first gas station I see. I got to get some Mountain Dew, and I've got to get something to just snack on a little bit on the way down. Just the first gas station that I see that doesn't look like every single one from home. When I'm in Nashville, Party Foul. You got to stop in Party Foul. Great food. But yeah, I'm a big gas station guy. I eat a lot of fast food in my day-to-day life. So anytime I get to try somewhere new, I definitely, like, if there's a new fast food restaurant, like in Texas, you're down there, you got Whataburger. I guess I've only ate Whataburger once. I've never been to In-N-Out, but I've heard really good things about In-N-Out. So that's when I'm on the West Coast, In-N-Out is definitely somewhere that I'll have to stop and try as well.
There you go. See, I live in Vegas, so there's In-N-Out all over the place here. But I was recently in Arizona, in Phoenix, with some friends, and they don't have In-N-Out, and they'd never heard of Whataburger, and they made me go to In-N-Out over Whataburger, and I still haven't talked to them.
It's honestly end of a friendship at that point. You're like, I eat this
Absolutely.
all the time. I've heard good things about In-N-Out. I was a little disappointed in Whataburger. I think because I built it up so high in my head, and I was like, this is just essentially a Sonic burger, but like without all the toppings.
Man, you are going to get hurt talking like that.
I know, man. I know people are going to come after me. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying, like, I'm still going to choose Taco Bell over Whataburger 9 times out of 10.
I love it. Okay, here we go, man. Last question, and take as much time or as little time as you want to answer this one. If you could pick one thing for people to take away from your appearance on this show and your music in general, what would it be?
The one thing I want everybody to take away from the way I live my life and the music that I release and just me as a person and what I try to strive for. And this, I talked about it a little bit in this show. But my biggest thing is I was somebody who, at one point in my life didn't think that I was going to make it to see, 25, 26 years old. I was severely depressed and just struggling with anxiety. And it's not a sob story. It's and I've had friends take their lives, but, get help. Everything gets better. And as selfless as you think that act might be, because you've made it seem selfless to you and it feels selfless, you feel like you're doing everyone a favor. That stuff, it's not. You're not doing anybody any favors. And, by not getting help and not trying to, get your mental health in check, you're only hurting yourself and everyone else around you. And you're taking away your ability to live a happy and fulfilled life, even if you're still living life. If go get help and there's plenty of avenues out there. And I'd love to see more people, I'd love to be able to share my story and my struggles and people go, man, there is somebody else out there that feels the way that I do. And they made it through it. So maybe I can. And that's really what I hope to achieve someday.
Man, that is a heck of a message to take away. Thank you so much for jumping on here. We are definitely going to do this again in the future.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Absolutely, buddy. And that was another episode of the Tea Party Podcast. It's a country music podcast where you find new friends and new music like Jerod Yount and Unbreakable.
Go tee off on the like button at facebook.com/Tea Party Podcast. This has been a Tea Party Communications production. Theme music created by Jesse Quandt. Announcer voiceovers by Gwinn. And as always, hosted by Pisani.